Marijuana, cannabis, or weed is a naturally occurring plant that contains specific chemicals which can make people feel better in the moment when they smoke or even swallow food with these chemicals in them. Because marijuana is a plant, it's often thought that anything that comes from nature can't really hurt someone or cause harmful effects. It's important to remember that there are a lot of things in nature that are harmful and can even be poisonous to us. Marijuana is really complicated this way because it can cause some really bad things to happen to some people, and in others, it might not have such negative effects. Marijuana is legal for adults to use in Canada. However, it is not considered legal to use in those who are not yet deemed to be adults, which is usually someone over the age of 19. The reason for this is because the chemicals in marijuana can actually harm brains that are still growing. As you get older, especially through your teenage years, the brain grows rapidly. When the brain gets exposed to some of the chemicals from marijuana, it ends up developing problems. The chemicals in marijuana directly enter the brain, and this is what causes people to feel high, or euphoric, which is what doctors call it. These chemicals are called cannabinoids. There are over 100 different kinds of cannabinoids in marijuana, and different strains of marijuana contain different concentrations of these cannabinoids. The most important cannabinoid that is responsible for making someone feel high when they smoke marijuana is something called THC, or tetrahydrocannabinol. THC interacts with different parts of the brain. And in the developing brain, when the brain is continuing to grow a lot, especially in the adolescent and early adult years, THC can cause a lot of problems to happen. Most of these problems involve difficulties with someone's mood and their anxiety levels. Even though smoking marijuana can cause someone to feel better in the moment, it can actually cause them to feel a lot worse overall with ongoing use. A lot of youth use marijuana because it makes them feel like it helps them with their anxiety levels. But in fact, over time, it actually makes anxiety worse because of the effects on the brain. One of the biggest problems that happens when the developing brain is exposed to marijuana is that it leads to difficulties focusing attention and learning new things. Marijuana can also affect the ability to form new memories and do well on tests and assignments. Being able to remain balanced and coordinated is also affected. Athletes often do worse if they smoke a lot of marijuana, and driving while high is very dangerous because of this. The real downside to using marijuana when your brain is still growing is that it can take away your motivation to get things done and learn new things. Marijuana has a way of taking away someone's drive to do better and to succeed. We call this demotivation. The younger someone is when they start using marijuana, the more likely they are to experience demotivation. One of the most concerning things that can happen when a young person smokes marijuana is that the brain can start to play tricks on itself. The chemicals in marijuana can actually cause someone to become more paranoid and even experience hallucinations, like hearing or seeing things that aren't really there. Some people might be more prone to these kinds of effects, which we call psychosis. Sometimes, someone only feels paranoid or hears voices when they're smoking marijuana or when they're high. However, with ongoing use, these effects can continue to happen even when the person is not getting high. When someone continues to have hallucinations or experiences paranoia over several weeks or months, we might say that they have a psychotic disorder. Many people experience bad highs when they use a lot of drugs. The problem with bad highs from marijuana is that it might actually trigger the brain to develop a psychotic disorder like schizophrenia. It's really important to decrease and eventually stop the use of marijuana when this happens. If someone has psychosis and they keep using marijuana, the severity of the voices they hear and the kinds of visual hallucinations they see actually gets worse. They can become more fearful or paranoid of others. Even when they take medications for psychosis, if they keep using marijuana, the medications might not work, and the paranoia and hallucinations can get even worse. Marijuana is an addictive substance. We know that the longer someone uses it for, the harder it is to stop using it. If someone stops smoking marijuana after they've used it for a while, they often experience cravings. It's important to speak to a doctor and even a therapist to talk about how best to get off of marijuana so that it doesn't have negative effects on your brain. Even though marijuana can make you feel better in the moment, it causes major problems and can really make your brain not work well.